Hello everyone and welcome to the pitskill.io Porsche Cup sponsored by SimQuips. I'm your host Roy Waller and tonight we are in Valencia for the first of our Spanish double headers. This is round 6 of the series and our drivers are just getting started on their qualifying stints. And the first of our drivers to take us around on their flying lap will be Maya Van Dijk in what I haven't noticed before, but is a horrendously painted car that is overlapping some of the glass panels there with the paint. That is quite the travesty, but we'll stick with Maya for the while with just one sector left to go. And a couple of corners, and by all accounts, still on a valid lap, so we should see our first representative time as Van Dijk heads to the start-finish line. And it is a 1 minute 35.1 Van Dijk, and very quickly demolished by Nathan Smith-Adams. Can you imagine there was a mistake in that lap for Maya as some 1.4 seconds off the pace. And Smith-Adams staying top for now. We do have the return of our championship leader Reese Tattersall, who is not running one of his famous liveries tonight by the looks of things. Just in the boring bog standard Porsche Cup livery. And well, those track limits at turn 1 are slightly deceiving. I thought he'd run wide there, but turns out you can head all the way over to Barcelona and still be within the track limits there. We'll keep with Tattersall for now. So he brings us around the back of the second sector. You see how sweeping these corners here at this Valencia circuit. Very much a case of tying the corners together, optimizing the exit of one corner to get the best possible entry into the next. Very, very technical circuit. And very, very easy to mess things up on the brakes. There's just one final corner to go for Tattersall. And we'll see what our I believe net championship leader, though I think the current standings would suggest otherwise. As he crosses the line, and oh, was there an invalidation in there somewhere? Was he just leaving the pits? Because either way, he's not got a time on the board, so must have missed an invalidation in there somewhere. So we're beginning to see more and more drivers setting their lap times. As our championship sponsor Chris Wright finds himself tucked up behind a Nitro. Chris Wright in that distinctive SimQuips livery, and Nitro in his Linux Ubuntu livery. Chris Wright currently doing better than we have seen from him in the rest of this season. Currently sitting P6 in qualifying. Chris has come on strong in the races in past, but this season so far has not been able to string together the sort of qualifying laps we've come to expect from him. And with just the final corner to go, and floors the throttle, and fortunately not as good an exit as he got last time, and sets an almost identical lap time to what he'd set before. So Chris Wright, nothing if not consistent around this circuit by the seams of things. And finally, championship contender Reece Tattersall does set his lap time. Good enough for P5, but not good enough for pole position just yet. We'll have time to get out there and set another time. As Chris Wright continues to improve on his campaign. Currently 0.8 seconds off of our provisional pole sitter of Quantum, new driver to the Pitskill Porsche Cup Series. We'll take a look and see what livery is Brent Quantum running as a newcomer to the series, and slot himself right up there at the fast end of the grid. Is going to be one we're going to want to keep our eyes on. As the camera angles at this Valencia circuit refuse to give us a good look at his car, and it is a Weeb livery, ladies and gentlemen. You get them every now and again. It's a decent looking livery though, and I'm sure it will look even better up there at the top of the grid if he manages to keep himself there. That's right. Continuing to improve on his lap times as he goes. We're going to be returning to this driver quite a few times over the session as he's continuing to find pace here. One driver we've yet to check in with is Kenny Crows. After a decent spell out in the VIP trophy last week, is coming on strong here at Valencia in the Porsche Cups. The driving of the 992 in the VIP trophy must be helping him in some way to get confidence, and only learning at least one foundation of car, one platform. But GT3 and the Porsche Cup, very different beasts in terms of drivability. But Kenny Crows finding some pace and should get him within a second of our pole sitter with this lap. And up into P10 he goes. Solid lap from Kenny. And with 5 minutes remaining on this session, a good foundation to build upon and try and find some more lap time. As John Sawyer finds himself up behind Marco Lorenzon. I believe that is ahead. As Lorenzon jumps out of the way to let John Sawyer continue his lap. They head through this winding second sector. John Sawyer, let's call it the instigator of the carnage we saw last time out at Zandvoort. Was unfortunate to get caught up in that on the curb, and we'll be looking to have a bit more of a cleaner race here at Valencia to help him on his way at the sharp end of the championship. He comes out of the final corner. This should be enough to jump him a fair way up the competitive order, up into P4 now. A much better starting position for tonight's race if he can keep hold of it. There's Tadeusz Szynski finding some pace out there. Just going around the final corner. And this too should see him climb well up the order. Up into P11. Does the Vanilla Rexy go. As Andy Hudson in the Only Boomers Racing Pisswasser liveried car caught up there behind, I think, one of our slower drivers on the pack, and just having to be careful here, has lost a whole bunch of time over this lap. Was up substantially on his previous best, but having to back out to make room. With a 35 car grid, very easy to get caught up in traffic. Especially with the different paces we have across our grid. As Marco Lorenzo wants to finish the lap, tucks up right behind the car ahead of him, getting the benefit of that slipstream to move himself up into P23. Lorenzo, a veteran Porsche Cup driver. This is his 3rd season with us. And going strong. And talking of going strong, Reese Tattersall, currently halfway around the lap and setting the timing boards ablaze. He comes round, completes. Second sector has found substantial time over his previous best. And this could be a lap that threatens for pole position if he can just keep it tidy through the final few corners. He's got plenty in hand, doesn't need to stretch the track limits too much. Just one final corner to navigate. Pins the throttle to the floor. And Reese Tattersall crosses the start-finish line to take provisional pole position with just under a minute remaining in this session. Will that be enough to secure him the front spot on the grid tonight? Or does Quanton or Smith Adams have anything to say about that? Both drivers should get an opportunity for one more flying lap after the one they're on. As Balazs Fahey in the BWT liveried car comes up to the final corner, is looking to improve on a 1:33.4. Moves himself up into P4. It's a good improvement. And with Matthew Parry in the pits, does mean a car from further back will have to be the one to challenge him. And this now seems to be a two-way fight for pole position, as our timer has hit 0, and it will not be Quanton who will challenge Tattersall for pole position. He has invalidated his current lap, and Smith Adams in the pit lane means that Reese Tattersall, who's currently looking to improve on his already good enough time, although runs wide at the final corner and does invalidate, so will not improve. So Reese Tattersall looking fairly comfortable in pole position, but just behind him there are still positions to be gained, as John Sawyer, just one corner left to navigate. As he gets on the throttle, this should be a good improvement. Should see him move considerably up the order as he crosses the line to go up to P4, but it might be a short-lived P4 as Balazs Fahey comes. Okay, it's not a short-lived P4 as Balazs Fahey dives right out of the way to allow Tadeusz Suzuki, who, well, I think maybe got a little bit distracted by the sideways Balazs there, and would also not be improving on his lap time. So, seems like that will be it for our qualifying session. We head to our grid. We can take a quick look at our championship standings. You can see currently sitting at the top of our standings is Matthew Parry on 311 points. Closely followed by Reece Tattersall, who, let us not forget, did miss out on that last round at Zandvoort, so doing well to only be 31 points back from our current championship leader. And behind him in P3 is Balazs Fahit, just 10 points adrift. Then rounding out the rest of our order, we have got Nathan Smith-Adams, Robert Weidbeck, Josiah Szynski and John Sawyer tied on 184 points. Then Johan Leff, Roland Schricker, Busso GT, Marco Lorenzon, Kenny Kroes, Jace Jones, Tyler Wegner and Matthias Peltzer. As we take a look at the grid for tonight's race, we have got Reece Tattersall returning to his usual spot of pole position. He's followed by Brent Quanton, with Nathan Smith-Adams and John Sawyer making up a row 2 on the grid. Balazs Fahit, after that spin at the final corner, had to make do with P5. He will line up alongside Matthew Parry, Roland Schricker and Chris Wright in P7 and 8, with Andy Hudson and Matthias Peltzer on the 6th row of the grid. And then will be Kareem Elditore and Sam McCarthy. Josiah Szynski and Kenny Kroes behind. Two of those we've seen much action from before in this season, so I suspect tonight will be no difference. We then have Svoboda and Wagner behind P15 and 16, with Loic and Shu and Maya van Dijk behind them. In P19 is Florent de Moor with Patrick van der Kraan alongside. Bob de Eitz, P21, and Bjorn King in P22. Steve Goosens in the number 999 police car is in P22, and Dave Van Eck is in P23. Marco Lorenzon and Gregor Michalak are in P24 and 25, with Jake Janssen van Rensburg and Jack Sloan lining up behind them. Nitro and Samuel, P28 and 29, with Martin and Wozencroft in P30 and 31. In P32, we have got the colourful livery of Marcus Bekengen, with a return of the goat livery of Harold Ketchelmeyer. And starting from the pit lane in P34 will be Ted Burr. And as they line up 2 by 2 to round the final corner, it is Reece Tattersall with Brent Quanton alongside, who will await the green light on the pit wall, signal the start of the race. As it looks like we've got a car peeling off into the pit lane. I'm not sure who that is, but we are racing here in Valencia, as that is Tyler Wegner into the pits. But at the front is Reece Tattersall leading Brent Quanton. Quanton going very wide there around turn 1, but keeping his foot in. Keeping in P2 as we've got what can only be described as an almighty mess behind, as Andy Hudson getting pushed out onto the grass. It's behind. We've got some more coming together. With Dave Van Eck off the circuit. As our cars snake through the first sector of this racetrack. There's Rhys Tattersall still leading the way ahead of Brent Quanton, with Nathan Smith-Adams and Balazs Faye here behind. As we've got yellow flags all over the second sector of this racetrack. I'm going to see if I can work out what has happened here. As Brent Quanton looking up the inside of Rhys Tattersall. And as we come up to complete our first lap of the race, it is Rhys Tattersall ahead of Brent Quanton, with Nathan Smith-Adams and Balazs Faye keeping them company. And we have a sizable, or a small gap back to Matthew Parry, and a few breaks in our order behind. Let's see if we can get a replay of that start, as they were battling behind. Ooh. Now we've got Ted Burr and Steve Goosens looking like they've had an almighty coming together. So what has happened there? So this is what we saw the start of, as Ted Burr leaves the pit lane. Not sure if we're going to see... Nope, we're not going to see what happened with him and Steve Goosens, unfortunately. And then behind all of this, so this is, I think, what we saw with, oh, this is what happened with the cars behind. So it looked like it was the 127 breaking in behind John Sawyer. So the 262 of Roland Schricker breaking behind John Sawyer, which caused a cascade of collisions. And we're managing to keep going. As our race settles down, Nathan Smith-Adams dives up the inside of Brent Quanton, up into P2 in this race. Oh, and it looks like Quanton getting a little bit out of shape on the outside. This is what allowed Smith-Adams through up into the second place in this race. Brent Quanton showing he's still got the pace, keeping tucked up behind Smith-Adams. They wind their way through this first sector. Rhys Tattersall pulling out a healthy lead. But with these two battling fiercely, this will allow the likes of Balazs Faye here and Matthew Parry to stick with this battle for a little while longer. In the background we can just see John Sawyer emerging. And behind John Sawyer, Roland Schricker leads a loose train of cars. He's followed by Chris Wright, Dias Szynski and Matthias Peltzer. As we've got a number of cars in the pit, as Quanton and Smith-Adams going side by side. As Quanton goes deep again, and that allows Smith-Adams to come back through. Sweeps around the outside. And as predicted, this close battling has allowed Balazs Faye and Matthew Parry to close right up on the back of these two competitors. So this is a four-way battle emerging over P2 in this race. And if they keep it up like this, the likes of John Sawyer and Roland Schricker could even join this battle if they're not too careful. But all the while, Rhys Tattersall has disappeared 2.6 seconds down the road after only 2 laps of this racetrack. As we wind our way around, Quanton still looking like he's applying the pressure to Smith-Adams, but not quite in control of the rear of that car by the looks of things. Oh, it's Quanton getting awfully close. to the back of Smith Adams. Able to follow so close through this middle sector. And this is where we saw Quantum have a look last lap around. Not doing this time, as Quantum likes to cut over a lot of that curb. The run down towards the final corner. And as of now, Nathan Smith Adams firmly holding on to P2 in this race. Quantum in the slipstream. In a great run down this start-finish straight. They're not quite able to get close enough to have a look. As we've got some battling down in P15 as a Nitro and Sam McCarthy go side by side. And we'll start finish straight as they swap sides in front of what must be quite a nervous Florent Demore. The three of them try and navigate their way through this first sector. Now Demore and Nitro side by side. Oh, there we go. A little bit of latency helped Nitro out there. Thought he was surely dead, but it was not to be. As Brent Quantum moves his way up the inside of Nathan Smith Adams and is up into P2 in this race. Bold move into the double left-hander, held the inside well there, did Quantum. Commanded the space and is up into P2 as Smith Adams taking his turn to chomp on a load of curb. As they emerge onto the start-finish straight yet again. And it's still a four-way battle over P2 in this race. And John Sawyer and Roland Schricker are closing in on this battle as well. 1.6 seconds the gap between Parry and Sawyer as it stands. So this could very well end up being a six-way battle for P2 on the podium. As Tadeusz Szynski gets his way past Chris Wright. Oh, as they're all side by side heading through this first sector. It's Wright and Peltzer who we need to keep an eye on, as Peltzer tries to keep himself present around the outside. Wasn't really going to be happening there. He's had to take the much longer route around the outside of the corner. But for now, he is sticking with Chris Wright, tucked up into that slipstream. As we've got yellow flags out for Sam McCarthy, who finds himself off in the dirt. Oh, and just the slightest of snaps, collects it, snaps again, and ends up finding a wall. As the battle for P2 in this race has spread out ever so slightly. Now the closest battles are between Blasfeyer and Matthew Parry, as Parry's looking to the inside of that pink and blue livery BWT car. As behind, Andy Hudson continues his recovery drive. Made his way past Marco Lorenzo as we catch the end of that move, as Hudson running awfully wide out of the first corner. That time triggering the track limits there. You have to stay on the green stuff if you want to be within track limits. And as we have a few trains forming in this field, one of which being headed up by our Rexy liveried Tadeusz Szynski and has got the two Quips cars behind it. And with the helpful addition of colour, much easier to tell those two cars apart now, of Chris Wright and Matthias Peltzer. As Peltzer is getting himself right up in that slipstream of Wright as they approach the final corner, and the long run down towards the first corner. Is Wright going to have a look at Suzuki here? We come towards the first corner. He's in the slipstream looking to the outside. Suzuki closes off the line. And battle for P4 continues. Balázs here defending from Matthew Parry as John Sawyer and Roland Stricker have closed right onto the back of this battle. It seems like all four of them are trying to share the same bit of tarmac. Battling for everything is worth as John Sawyer looks to the inside of Matthew Parry, just a little too far back to really try anything at this point. Matthew Parry sticking to the inside of the circuit, manages to hold traction, has the grip, and this could be the opportunity that Matthew Parry's been waiting for as he sweeps around the outside. Should have the better drive off the corner. He gets the throttle buried. And Matthew Parry up into P4 in this race. Balázs here now looking under pressure from John Sawyer. Though he is not giving up that place just yet. Just a slight snap of oversteer for Balázs. So he just has to back out of the throttle there to avoid running into the back of the car behind. As all four of them head down towards the first corner again. These cars, I think, are going to be together for a lot longer, as they seem to be trading pace backwards and forwards. As behind them, looks like Matthias Peltzer has made his way past Chris Wright for P9 in this race. Oh, Chris Wright with a big snap of oversteer there, trying to hug far too to the inside. This is what has allowed Matthias Peltzer up past, and you can see Andy Hudson very rapidly joining the back of this fight. You see now Matthias Peltzer with a lot of pace in hand is already up onto the back of Tadeusz Suzuki. Suzuki runs wide, and that is Matthias Peltzer up into P8. Gifted it on a plate at the end there. As we see behind, Chris Wright has got his mirrors full of Andy Hudson. He's on a little bit of a recovery drive after that lap 1 incident. As we can see that inside curbing there, you can cut over a good proportion of it, but well, go too deep there and you can see the car just bouncing up and down, and that is not going to do your traction any good. As Chris Wright would be grateful that he's got the slipstream from the Rexy ahead, as he is got Andy Hudson all over the back of him. As we've got battling up ahead as well between Roland Stricker and John Sawyer. These two have been chasing the pack ahead and having caught on to the back of Balázs and Parry. Now squabbling amongst themselves. And it does seem like Roland Stricker has made his way by it, but John Sawyer not giving this one up, sticking with Stricker for now. As we've seen many drivers hugging that inside line around this section of the circuit, and it seems to have done them well. Not so much for John Sawyer through there. You can see the surprising amount of the grip they get from that inside line, and John Sawyer not dropping away from Roland Stricker at all. As Andy Hudson continues to try and pick his way through. applying the pressure to Chris Wright, who gives the curbing a wide berth this lap. Obviously slightly unnerved by how much his car got unsettled the last time around. Andy Hudson's going to be looking for the run out of the corner. Chris Wright not quite close enough for Sosinski this time to get that slipstream effect. Is going to be advantage towards Hudson. Is he going to have a look to the inside this time around? Nope, not close enough to have a go. You can see Chris Wright, having been passed by Peltzer those few laps ago, is just dropping off with a little bit of pace and is falling into the grasp of Andy Hudson. He's done well to defend it so far though. He will be asking himself, has he got enough to hold on for the remaining 13 minutes of this race? It does look like Hudson has got the pace and is able to stick in there and apply pressure to him. Ooh, there's yellow flags for Florent de Moor, who finds himself in the gravel trap. It's just a little mistake on his own. Ooh, just a little bit of understeer caused him to run wider through the corner than he was expecting. And these Porsche Cup cars need, you be reminded, have no traction control. And so if you can't control those spinning rear wheels with your right foot, whoa, as well, Nitro there showing what happens if you keep your foot buried in these Porsche Cup cars. A whole bunch of oversteer as he takes that wide line around the corner and just, I think, boot for the throttle, and well, that is an unfortunate incident. As finally Andy Hudson has made his way through past Chris Wright. Chris Wright tried to fight it back through the first corner, kept a nose ahead. Hudson, the inside line, got the move made up into P10 in this race. As Florent de Moor driving away from Kenny Crows and Nitro behind as they battle it out. Back towards the front, and P5 Blashfeld here holding on ahead of a surging Roland Stricker, who's caught on to the back of Balazs, who seems to be struggling with the grip of his car, and a sloppy exit from the final corner is going to present an opportunity to Roland Stricker here. So he pulls out of the slipstream, gets himself alongside into the first corner. There's plenty of room. Tufay hit on the outside. Stricker is going to maintain the inside line and being very respectful to the car on his outside there. Could have used more of the room, but eventually Roland Stricker through anyway up into P5. And does look like Balazs here just struggling a little bit here with the rear of his car. You can see it being awfully twitchy through some of these sweeping corners. And I think he's now just needs to settle in and avoid slipping too much further back, as John Sawyer has closed in quickly. And now we see Roland Stricker in clean air. Get to see what sort of pace that he can extract, as Meyer van Dijk with the drive-through penalty. So easy to pick up here at this circuit, where getting every single millimetre of the track is so important, but you overstep those track limits and you will be picking up those drive-through penalties. As we've got a number of cars together on track heading into first corner. This is a battle over P27. As it is Shamoy Samuel who's leading this one ahead of Burr, Rosencroft and Van Dyke. As I think that is actually Smith Adams who's trying to work his way through this back marker battle, as that is Samuel's just moving out of the way of our P3 driver in this race. As tragedy strikes, Chris Wright out on the gravel, and whoop, wow, that almost comedy camera angle there as we see Chris Wright turning that left-right chicane into a double left-hander and straight into the wall. And, well, the front of that car not looking too healthy now. He will be suffering with that for the rest of this race. As Roland Stricker picking his way through the back marker traffic. Is being hunted down still by Balash Fahit, who's maintaining his pace for now, and John Sawyer not far behind. Ron Demore, Kenny Crows side by side heading through the final sector. Demore taking that bouncy inside line, manages to keep the car together, holds onto the inside line. We'll be able to run out wide and carry the speed as Kenny Crows carries so much speed through the corner. And this is going to be, well, I imagine quite an easy run for Crows, as we've got, I believe that is Gregor Michalak off in the gravel in the very, very distance. Kenny Crows keeping it tight to the inside. We'll get the inside again for the next corner. Should be able to hold on to this one as he moves up into P16 in this race ahead of Florent Demore. There's Roland Stricker continues to lead ahead of Bahir and Sawyer. I say lead, holds on to P5. Our closest battle at the front of the field. As they navigate the traffic of Harold Katchermeyer, who's currently running in P26. Katchermeyer getting out of the way, hugging that inside line, allowing our drivers in P5, 6 and 7 to make their way through. As, oh, is there another incident? Oh, Sam McCarthy in the pits, so not sure what's happened from in the pits and gone, so not quite sure what's happened for McCarthy there. I wonder if this will shine a light on it. Nope. Nope, can't see anything involving Sam McCarthy, so not quite sure what's happened to him. There's Marco Lorenzo catching up to Zvoboda through the final sector. I say catching up to Zvoboda, I think Zvoboda's actually been making his way through the field, looking to push his way forward. Up 4 positions, though it is actually Marco Lorenzon, who's been one of the real winners in this race, up 12 positions from a P24 start. So solid work from Marco Lorenzon. Splash here now, really feeling the pressure of John Sawyer. Well, you can see how this stage of the race, how slippery these cars are getting. As this Valencia circuit puts an awful lot of energy through those tyres. They'll be pleased to hit. Only 3.5 minutes remain of this race. We just need to hold on for a little while longer. And there's one driver who needs to hold on for a little while longer is Tadeusz Suzuki, who's now got Andy Hudson all over his rear. As Hudson tries to take advantage of the wider line, and it is a great exit there from Hudson, and I think Suzuki is going to be ruining how tightly he hugged that final corner, completely compromised his exit out onto the start-finish straight, and even the glance there into the first corner was never going to be enough to get that position back. But he will keep with the Piswasser liveried car ahead of him and hope for a mistake. There's Andy Hudson making the most out of this recovery drive, as Suzuki doing very well to keep a hold of that car from, well, what we've seen from other drivers. Once you get out onto that AstroTurf on the exit of some of those corners can be an absolute nightmare, but keeps the car under him and loses a little bit of that time to Andy Hudson, but with a 7.5 second gap back can afford to just ease off and consolidate his position. As Balazs continues to have John Sawyer for company, though those two now separated by the back marker traffic of Steve Goosens, who I think does just hold up John Sawyer there for a little bit of extra time, which I'm sure Fahir will be supremely grateful for. And with Rhys Tattersall some 20 seconds now into his lap, we will have 2 laps remaining of this race. And that gap at the front actually has been reducing. The gap at just 1.1 seconds. Quanton has been able to hold on in this battle quite well. Maybe hasn't had all the screen time, which he maybe deserved during this race. As we enter towards what will be the final lap of this race, has Brent Quanton got enough to try and close down this 1.3 seconds. Going to be a tall order against Rhys Tattersall. Oh, as I said, we did have some tight battling behind with Dave Van Eck, Florent Demour and Gregor Michalak as they all come sideways through the first corner. Bumper to bumper stuff as Florent Demour puts himself to the inside of Van Eck. Oh, and Van Eck pit maneuvers him? Question mark. I can see that one again from another angle. Well, we'll leave that one up to the stewards to decide. As Rhys Tattersall on the final lap of this race has been a fairly dominant drive And I'm sure, well, actually looking at the standings, this I imagine won't quite be enough to see him take back the championship lead, but will not put him far off. With just one corner remaining to go. It'll be Reese Tattersall who takes the checkered flag first to take the win here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, and Brent Quanton will take P2 and the fastest lap to boot. And rounding out the podium will be none other than Nathan Smith-Adams, followed by Matthew Parry and Roland Schricker. And still battling hard behind, but coming out on top is Lashfay here in P6 with John Sawyer following him in P7. Matthias Peltzer will take P8 with Andy Hudson, a well-fought P9 in the end after that recovery drive. Tadeusz Kaczynski holds on for P10 and, well, not want to go too far off the circuit and pick up a loss of pit rep as he does a supreme 180 slide there. Swoboda will take P11 with Lorenz on P12, the Eitz P13. Chris Wright in a horrendously damaged Cup car in P13. Kenny Crow's P14. Nitro coming down the start finish straight in the slipstream of the 134 car will take P15. Patrick van der Kraan P16 with Dave Van Eck taking P16 or P17 on track, and Gregor Michalak P19 in the end. I think I got some of those out of order as people left the session. But again, big congratulations to our top three: Reese Tattersall, Brent Quanton and Nathan Smith-Adams. I have been your host, Roy Weller. This has been the Pitschool.io Porsche Cup sponsored by SimQuips. And please do join us again next Monday when the Porsche Cup heads or stays in Spain as we head to Barcelona for round 7. And stay with us for just a few short minutes and we will get the highlights for tonight's race ready for you. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Good night.